All right, let's give them a couple minutes to get into the room, and then we'll start talking. I don't know if you guys want to just talk a little bit or what you want to do as far as we wait. I'm only going to give them a couple minutes. I'm not going to give them a lot of time because I know your time is valuable. I know their time is valuable, and we want to get this rolling because I know you guys got a big day and you got other things ahead of you today. I've already seen.
Yeah, we got a nice schedule today. Dylan's got us covered up today.
Dylan's actually got us working today.
I know. I seen it. I mean, that's like I've done those back-to-back webinars. I know what that's about. It's a lot of time and energy, goes into that from one presentation to another. It's a huge. I think it's more of an undertaking than people understand.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that.
We're starting to get them into the rooms. I see them coming in. We're just gonna start here. We've got people that are coming in here. The other ones can catch up and they can catch it on YouTube or the replay if they have to, but we're gonna get started here. Guys, first off, I want to welcome you guys to ProSeller Talk. This is the inaugural ProSeller Talk episode 1. I've had a few of them in the past that I've done beta testing, and this is the launch of it. And what better launch to have than with Daniel Meadors and Eric Lambert, 2 of the gurus out there that I call gurus, that are the real deal, guys. I've met Eric and Daniel at one of my co-conferences I did out at ASD in Vegas. I think it was last year, maybe a little bit later than that. I'm not sure. And these guys are the real deal. They came to one of my conferences, and I got to talk to them and get to meet them. And they were not only there to see what I was doing, but also I was there to see, and I was talking to them and see what they were doing. And we're all on the same page here. One thing we like doing is we like helping others and showing people that it's anything if you put your mindset to it and you want to do it. And guys, I'm going to introduce these guys in a few minutes here, but I want you to know that these guys last year on their Amazon business alone did just over $3 million. They've already surpassed that this year in wholesale, and we're just about halfway through. They're projected to do about $8 million on Amazon this year in wholesale. And what's amazing about this, guys, is they could keep it to themselves. They don't have to share this with anybody. And you say, why would you want to share it? Well, because it's the kind of people they are. I call them my brothers from Kentucky, born and bred in Kentucky. And these guys are great. They're awesome. You should hear and let them talk in a second, but I just wanted to give you a little heads up of who's real excited to bring them in here today. And I know that they have something exciting for you. If you got a pen and paper, you might want to take notes, even though this will be recorded, because what they're going to give to you today and some of the information they're going to go over is going to be power-packed. And guys, again, Daniel and Eric, welcome, and I'll let you guys take this stage.
All right, John, thanks for having us. I mean, we're really excited. We just actually found out this was going to be our inaugural show, so hopefully we set the bar high and you just keep eclipsing it each time. That's the but luckily the bar's not set anywhere. So anywhere we set it the first time, it's going to be high. But for anybody that doesn't know, I'm Eric and this is Dan, and like I said, we're from Kentucky, and I've been doing wholesale for a couple years now, and it's just been phenomenal. And going back to what you said about why you do this and stuff, when we meet these people, I actually met you at a conference, and we've been to other conferences, and some of these people that have that we've been around us and implemented some of our systems and stuff, and they come up and they tell you, you've changed my life. We've been able to do, more freedom and stuff. You don't really understand how much that affects you and how powerful that is until something like that happens. So it's just something, worth way more than money, to be quite honest. It's something that I just, every time it happens, I'm just staggered, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was some of the people we talked to at ASD. We had a little dinner at ASD with some of the past people we had worked with, and just how emotional they were about the things the things that they had learned and how their life had changed from those from the changes in their business was unbelievable. It was an awesome and awe-inspiring experience for us.
All right, guys. Some of the things I want to know, questions that I have for you that the audience probably would like to know, and I ask this to a lot of my guests, is that I know we're going to get into how you started on Amazon, but I'm curious how you guys got started, how Eric and Dan became a team, because I think people need to understand that it's all about networking and all about having the right people in the right places to move your business forward. And I'm curious how you guys decided that this was what we wanted to do, and it just worked and gelled together.
Yeah, I mean, I've known Dan for years. We played a strategy card game. We'd play it, and he would come around to the tournaments and stuff. And so I've known him since he was probably 12 or 13 years old. Met him again as an adult. We didn't, we were working at the same spot, and we decided to give it a try. And the thing is like, a lot of people say that partnerships and aren't, they don't want partnerships, and they never go well. But I mean, ours has been solid from day one. I mean, we both respect each other. Maybe it's because we've known each other for such a long time, and know that at our core, even though we may have disagreements on the surface or what have you, but at the core we know that we have the best interest for the business and each other going forward. So that's really the thing. It takes respect and trust, and so we were really fortunate to find that in one another and be willing to build a business of this magnitude as a partnership. So.
Yeah, I mean, we disagree from time to time. It's because both of us are strong-willed and strongly opinionated guys. But at the end of the day, if it's something where we're in an impasse, we're willing to go one way or the other way. And because we both understand that, I understand that Eric's best interests or his interests are aligned with my best interest and the company's best interest, and vice versa. It just takes a lot of trust. It takes but it also brings around a different dynamic. Eric looks at stuff differently than me, so he'll often see opportunities that I won't see, and the other way. So it's great to have a partner, in my opinion, to have to be able to bounce ideas off of, to be able to talk to, and just get a better perspective on all of the things going on in your business. And
we were fortunate to do it, obviously be able to do it in person, but since we've been going to conferences and networking with people, we've got several people that we talk to on a regular over Facebook Messenger and stuff that doing that similar thing, bouncing ideas off of and implementing small strategies that they may do better than we do in our business and vice versa, and really helping each other. And our business has really grown so much from having sharing and being and networking with people. So like you're absolutely right. It's phenomenal, and it will do nothing but grow your business far greater than you probably even could imagine.
Right. Thanks, guys, for that answer. And the other part of that is, how do you see you guys working as a team? I mean, I know what you just guys said about bouncing ideas off one another and things like that, but I mean, the important thing that I think people need to realize is that you have to be able to keep your egos in check, because we all have egos, and the only way you grow in relationships, especially partnerships, is to keep those egos in check and realize that Daniel has strengths that Eric doesn't have, and Eric has strengths that Daniel doesn't have. And also, like they said, they made a very key point about trade shows and realizing that they don't, even together, they don't have all the answers. So they're willing to go out of their comfort zone and reach out to the people answers, and that can help them grow as a business. And you guys agree with that or not?
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, it's been I definitely agree with it. And I just want to say that generally I'm right more than Eric, but we do work together, and then being able to bounce ideas off of outside parties has been phenomenal as well. That was something where we actually went to the Scam Power conference and met a bunch of people there, and that's really helped move our business forward. And then we started going out to more conferences because we realized the value of networking. That was our first real networking event. And since then we've made, we came out to ASD, we watched your presentation and talked to you and stuff like that. It's just that, those kinds of interactions where you physically meet somebody and you're able to talk to them and bounce ideas is invaluable.
And I agree with that. I think what people need to know too is that when you go into these conferences, it's not about the conferences, although they have valuable information. From what I found over the years of going to these things, it's about the networking. It's about the relationships that you've built inside of those conferences with the people that attend them. It's huge. Like you said, coming to my event and you guys getting to network, not only with me, you guys were networking with other people there too. It's huge. The value and the cost that you pay for the event far exceeds the value that you get for when you start networking and you understand that you're going to these events, not just for the speakers, but for the atmosphere and the people that are there. And you mentioned my good friend Chris Green also, and going to his conference. And I think anybody that knows Chris Green or doesn't know them needs to be following him. That man is a world of knowledge. I mean, he thinks, and if you're not following him, you certainly need to be following him, because he's another one that I believe hardly in. He's only for other people. He does things for them, not for himself. And that's kind of what I like and what I build myself around, is I call it that circle of influence. I have a book that's coming out, Circle of Influence, that I co-wrote with Brian Brieger, that goes into some of those big people and their stories and how they got started. Real quick here, guys, I got a question in the chat that I don't know how to answer. It says, can this be done for me living in Sweden? I don't have a so-called tax ID and other stuff like UZ citizen may have.
Well, I want to let Dan answer that real quick, but before I do, because we're getting ready to get into and before I forget, we're getting ready to get into obviously start talking about the actual wholesale and what we do that's different. And I want to let me share this screen here. Are you able to see this this website here, John? Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, ProSellerTalk.com. We've got some videos up there. They're going to teach you about the, we're going to touch on, I'm sure here, reverse sourcing and how to identify amazing and awesome wholesale products. And they're going to be much more in depth. They're going to be a little bit more. I mean, we're going to obviously glaze over it a bit here and give you the Cliff's notes, but these videos are going to be a little bit more in depth and maybe help you understand it a little bit more. And those videos are absolutely free. So head over there, check that out. I wanted to make sure I got that up before I forgot. Now, if I can remember, I'll try to put it up again at the end too. That way, everybody can check that out. But and then I'm gonna turn that off there and let Dan answer the question.
Now, operating in a in Sweden or any other country outside of the United States, it does present its own challenges, but it 100% can be done. We've had students that utilize wholesale in general from Singapore, the UK, Canada, and all are doing actually very well. So yeah, it can be done. There's a couple extra steps you have to go through, but to be able to set up to buy some product. But once you're able to do that, then you're able to utilize prep centers like John's. I mean, you can ship all your product there, and then he can ship it all to the Amazon warehouses, and it's pretty seamless after that. So getting set up and getting started is the hard part, but once you do it, it's just like any other business, except you never have to touch your product.
Sam had a question real quick, and then we're going to get into what you guys do. Sam says, is this about webinars or about partnerships or about buying items at wholesale? It's absolutely about both sales, Sam. If you guys can hold your questions to the end, because Dan and Eric have a lot to get through, I want to make sure that you guys get the value for what you came here for today. They're going to go into the pros and cons of what they do, how they've done it, what they learned, what's made them successful, and how they've been able to grow this tremendous $1 million business. So I'm going to let those guys get started on their presentation of what they want to talk about today. They have a lot to do, so we'll get to those questions at the end. I promise you, we'll save some time. But I really want to hear what these guys got to say. These guys are unbelievable what they're doing and how they're doing it.
All right. Well, I mean, for anybody that doesn't know, we started just obviously Dan and I doing a retail arbitrage, like I'm sure many of you have or at least have heard of, and we grew capital, and we're driving around Kentucky, Tennessee, this entire area, doing the retail arbitrage grind, buying on clearance or buying hard to find toys or items and reselling on Amazon. And we did that for a couple of years, and we got to the point where we couldn't fill our van up fast enough for the capital we had built. I mean, we grew it to the point like it took longer to go get product and get back and process and ship it in. We couldn't spend all our available money that we wanted to invest, so we decided to give the wholesale model a try, where The margins are a little bit, smaller than RA, but the products come to you. You're dealing with higher volume, oftentimes replenishable products. So, we decided to give this a try, and I guess it was July of 2014. Yeah. So, and it's still at this point, we're still just Dan and I. And it went about 4 months leading up to Q4. We were still doing RA because we thought this wholesale would just kind of like, help bolster our revenue, not necessarily replace RA. But after about 4 months, we realized it's growing at a rate that it was going to supplant RA for us. And so we did Q4 that year, RA also. But at the end of it in December, we decided we weren't doing RA anymore, hired a couple of employees, and moved full-time wholesale in January 2015, and have been wholesale all wholesale ever since. In our first full year of wholesale, which was 2015, as you mentioned, last year we did 3.9 million in wholesale alone. So it's been exciting growth for us, and and it all started with us just giving the RA model a try and going from there.
Well, in terms of our evolution into wholesale, that was one of the things where initially, we ran into the same challenges that other people run into and give up. Like that, we ran into the issue of, first off, it was, we would go through and set up accounts with wholesalers and be, just bombarded with giant catalogs, and we're sitting there trying to pilfer through product and try to see what fits for us. And honestly, it wasn't a great experience for us at first. Like we did struggle. It was hard to find product that fit. And when we did find product that fit, we didn't understand the process. Like we didn't understand what we were doing, particularly with closeouts. We don't do a lot of closeouts because it's not our space. It's not a space that we've operated in enough to know, we don't have the right connections. We don't know where we're buying, we understand where we're buying the product, but we understand that it also gets split out to several different vendors. And our experience in general was that we bought some pieces of some closeouts, and competition got really heavy on Amazon, and we ended up losing money. But whenever we were going into that, we understood that there had to be another thing that would work for us. And closeouts work for other people. It's just, there's all these models for wholesalers, liquidation, closeouts, and you gravitate towards one and you learn it. Closeout style did not work for us because it just wasn't. It didn't fit where we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. So what we ended up doing is we ended up starting to gravitate towards. We work directly with brands and manufacturers, and it was that was a hard transition as well, because what we got into is, people don't necessarily want to sell you product. It becomes really awkward. You get into this really awkward situation of you're trying to hand them money and they just, no, I don't want to sell to you. And that was a really hard transition for us too, because, we didn't know how to buy product. We didn't know how to make ourselves marketable to these companies and how to set up these relationships. So early on, I think our success rate was about 7% or something like that.
Extremely low.
It was ridiculous. So we were calling and just being told no time after time. But what we did learn was whenever you're able to set up those accounts, because we were setting up replenishment based accounts, and I'll tell you right now that 100% of our entire inventory is replenishable. So when we place an order for a product, we're able to constantly reorder that product and get the maximum. We're ordering it this month, we'll order it next month, we'll order it the following months. And what that effectively does is it gives us it works kind of like an ATM. Like if you're making money on the products, like you're effectively putting $1 in and getting your $1.30, $1.40 out every month. And that's the way we've structured our business now. But originally it was, like I said, it was tough. But what we found was when you set up an account, that happened. Like you were able to grow quickly because you were able to buy your first product, your second product, and those products stay good month after month, and your income continues to grow. So in that first little 2014 stretch, we had set up our accounts. We had our retail arbitrage account, and then we set up our wholesale account separately, like two different Amazon accounts. And what we saw is month over month, the wholesale account continued to grow. It was, 20,000, 40,000, 60,000, and it just continued to trail up because those products, the first product we were buying, we continued to buy month after month, and then the second, and then the third. So that income continued to go up, and in that first little 6-month stretch, we did $320-something thousand in 6 months. But those accounts carried over to 2015 for us, and that was, it wasn't like we had to start all over and find new products. We were just adding to that total, and that's how we scaled to 3.9 million that year, as we just continued to add products to that total. And the greatest thing for us, I think, was how scalable the whole process is. And I think that's probably what you gravitate towards too, as well, John, I would imagine, because you guys have a huge warehouse and operate at scale. But whenever we're looking at it, we're able to all of our the way that we buy product, the way that we handle product, everything is a process. So what we slowly did is, starting in 2015, we started hiring employees to fill those roles. We were taking ourselves out of the, I didn't pack a box in 2015. Eric didn't pack a box in 2015, outside of teaching our team how to do it. So when we brought our employees in, we were coaching them and teaching them how to do the things that we wanted to remove ourselves from in our business. We also brought in somebody to help with sourcing. And that was really valuable, because instead of having 1 or 2 people sourcing, like, me and Eric, now we had 3 full-time people sourcing. And we were able to operate inside of those parameters. And ultimately it was that additional, bringing those additional people to the table helped grow our business faster. And ultimately, as they got more proficient, we were able to start removing ourselves from those processes. So it gave us more freedom and time to think about strategies to grow our business, as opposed to work on our business.
So I just want to back up there for 1 second. As far as when you were first starting out doing the wholesale, do you agree? Because I know I found it out dealing with closeout vendors and manufacturers that, the more you talk, the more comfortable you get, the more you know what to say. And I truly believe that a no means I'm that much closer to a yes. Do you guys agree with that? I think the folks here would like to understand about dealing with the vendors and the manufacturers, and some of the learning curves that you guys had to go through to be able to put the process in that place that you have now. That sounds like you got a real good running smooth machine.
Sure. No, I mean, it is 100% relationship based. You have to understand, albeit closeout, liquidation, direct. I mean, it's very relationship based. And whenever you get these no's, that's a great thing, because that means that every other person, all of your competitors that are going to these vendors are also getting no, but they're turning away. So we're a little more persistent than most, and we work to, we work to show them what we're about as a company, and how we can work together. So that's kind of the way we transition no's into yeses.
Right. If you guys want to share a little bit, you can, or you don't have to, but what are some of the do's and don'ts that you guys have learned with dealing, whereas kind of how you approach them now versus like, oh boy, when I first started, it wasn't like this, but I learned these things, and sort of to help cut down on a learning curve that anybody is trying to go into this business, it can be helped with.
I think first and foremost, if you're going to go into this, particularly with aspirations similar to us, which was to build a business, from day one, you need to act and as a business. You need to get a reseller certificate. You need to get things in place so that when you are at the level that you're wanting to be or close to, you are now an actual business. You don't have to back up and do these things. And when you're talking to these companies, they're going to be more receptive to you if you present yourself as a business that is interested in the company, not just somebody trying to hoard their products and sell them for as low a price as possible. Like you're trying to establish that relationship. So, but I mean, the main thing for us is like, present yourself and conduct yourself as a business from day one. And that will give you, if nothing else, it gives you direction for where you want to be, to really, so that you know that you're serious about this and you're going to, you know, continue to take the steps to get the growth that you want to eventually become an actual real scalable business. Because that's the thing we wanted to, from day one, we wanted to put systems in place and build a model that we could remove ourselves from. And we have done that. I mean, we're at that point now where, you know, it's perpetuating and self-sustaining at this point. So, and we're very proud of that. But we had that intention from very early on, and even for us, like it wasn't early enough. Like, so I'm saying anybody that has this from the very beginning, start and go after it with that manner. And
then, you know, to follow up to that, I think you know that was that's the core component. But start. Whenever you're working on a function in your business, think about being good enough at it that you can train somebody to do it or outsource it. Like we don't be afraid to outsource tasks that you don't need in your business. Like if you're packing boxes and you're not sourcing, like you're really undervaluing your time. So like we suggest a lot of people use prep centers because it gives you a lot of time back. Similar things, you know, Eric mentioned. Being a business, like that means have a CPA. Like, you know, you have CPAs. You know, if there's contracts or agreements, talk to a lawyer. Don't sign things that you don't understand. Like all of these parts are you know, they're parts of business, and they will help you grow faster. They'll help you do better because you're going to understand. You know, you're going to become more proficient at the things you understand rather than trying to learn the stuff that you don't. So I would say outsourcing is a huge aspect to growing quickly and setting up a business like this.
I think you kind of answered my question. I was just going to ask you too, is that I think what Dan and Erica are doing now is that when they were doing this together on their own, they kind of realized that they can only go so far by themselves. But when they decided to teach somebody else how to do it and realize that they could do it as good or better, I mean, let's face it, some people can do it better than we do. That's when they grew, and they grew into what they're doing now. And it allowed them the freedom to be able to continue to do what they want now. Like they can take time to be on a webinar and things like this. So do you guys agree that when you guys gave up that total control and started outsourcing, like you said, that's when you really started to see your business take off?
Oh, without a doubt, 'cause I'm the world's worst for that too. I drug my feet on that, very, very controlling with tasks and things, and so it was very difficult for me too. But once you do let go and learn to assign low value tasks to outsourcing opportunities, then that allows you to spend your time on high value tasks, things that only you can do in your business, or things that you do the best in your business, instead of having to do the menial tasks. And that's actually just the recipe for growth, right? So I mean, if you're the more high level tasks and work that you can do, the better return you're going to have. That's just common sense. And so when you're able to do more high level stuff, then that's when the growth is really going to happen.
You know, and for us, one of the most harmful mindsets I see is you know, the concern of hiring an employee who will replicate or rip off your business model or whatever. I don't think that you know, you have to look at it from this perspective. If you can hire an employee and then they can take your business model and wreck your entire life and business, then what are you actually protecting? I mean, that's one of the things you have to really understand, that you know, your business needs to be, if you're building a business worth having, like you don't have to worry about it just falling apart because something changes. So in terms of our employees, once we did come around to hiring them, we were very, very open with them. And we, you know, like you said, we tried to train them to be better than us at everything. We pushed them, and that's part of it. Like whenever you spend all this energy and time into training somebody to be better, you know, you're with the intention of training them to be better than you, and then, you know, you get them to a level of that they can really take off and run with it. After that, you get to coach them. Like you're able to coach them and go back to them and make them, consistently perform at a higher level. So, I mean, our sourcing team is definitely better at sourcing than me and Eric at this point, because we worked with them and constantly fostered that relationship to get them to achieve at a higher level.
I agree with that. Hey guys, if somebody wanted to start out with your what you know now to help them cut down on them, if somebody wanted to start out and host them now, how would they get started, and what are some of the things they should be doing?
I mean, I know for a fact, it goes back to what I said about being a business. You should really start with getting you a reseller certificate, getting you a federal tax number, and begin the groundwork for building an actual business. There's I mean, what else can they be doing?
I mean, you should have a business email address. You shouldn't be contacted on from hotkitty79@gmail.com. Like, you should never reach out to a manufacturer with that type of email address. It should be your company, branded under your company. You should focus on building your brand. You're a brand. Like, if you're a business and you're selling product, physical product, digital product, I don't care what it is. If you're selling anything, you're a brand, and you want to brand yourself accordingly. So from day one, start working on building your brand, building your level of professionalism, and making sure you have all of the things in place that won't, hamstring you later whenever you have to go start working with, go back to looking at taxes or something like that. Like, make sure everything's in place.
Thanks, guys. I know one of the big myths that's out there is a lot of people are scared to get into wholesale because it takes a lot of money to go into wholesale. I know the answer to this myself, but I'd like to hear your version of it, and just let them know what your thoughts are as far as capital to get started in wholesale.
Oh, here's I'm gonna let you in on a sneaky secret here, John. Our entire inventory sells. Our turn rate is 45 days, which means all the money we've invested, we will have back in 45 days again. It's part of understanding your capital and the investments you're making. It doesn't take if I'm buying product that I can sell in 30 days, effectively my money is incredibly liquid. And that's what we try to do. Is we try, that was one of the benefits of working with replenishment based wholesale for us. Was we didn't have a ton of money when we first started buying wholesale products. We were invested in RA. We didn't want to take all of our RA budget to buy wholesale products because it was unproven for us. So, but whenever we found a product, we were able to buy a 14-day supply, and then increase to a 30-day supply as we realized that the products were performing consistently. So that ultimately helps to keep it liquid. But realistically, the majority of companies we see have $500 minimum orders, and that's nothing. Realistically, if you're operating in a business, that's not a large chunk of money. We generally suggest that people have $2,000 to $4,000 to be able to invest into product that won't affect or change the business, because you are going to make mistakes. That happens. Whenever you're getting started, you're still learning the process. You're still learning how to really analyze products. You're still learning how to analyze sell-through rates, because it is different than RA. Because look at it from the RA perspective. You buy 10 units or 12 units or 14 units. Well, with the products that we're buying, we're trying to buy. We're trying to buy towards a target stock period. Like, we're trying to buy a 30-day supply of products. So we're trying to look at the entire volume across that 30 days. I think you got it right there.
I know for us,
I agree with that.
We started with we set $5,000 aside when we started this venture to try to that wouldn't affect our business. And as bad as we were at sourcing at that time, I think that first 30 days we were only able to spend $2,000. We couldn't even get people to, because we didn't know how to present ourselves properly and in a fashion that is going to be, the brand owners and manufacturers are going to be receptive to. So, we had $5,000 to spend when we started, couldn't even spend it. So really, it's whatever. It is a very fast turning business model. So You know, it'll take longer with less money, obviously, because you got to wait for that money to turn to reinvest it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, we recommend it, you know, about $2,000 anyway to get started.
And then you also have to look at it from the perspective of if you're buying good products with good liquidity, like you know that can sell quickly, the general fluctuation on those products is not very much. So like even if you have to lose money, you know, you're losing 5-10% on a product, but you're recouping you're recouping the majority of your original capital. And that's what we found is that, you know, with wholesale, the losses are for us, the losses have been incredibly minimal. Like we've not really got buried on any kind of product. We're not because our price is more consistent. That's the thing, is we're consistently getting towards the lowest possible price to buy our products. So there's not as much leeway in there to play with margin for people, and the prices tend to be much more consistent.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've been going to trade for over 30 years. And I can tell you, as little as 5 to 8 years ago, getting into the wholesale business was not as easy. I mean, minimum orders used to be 2,500, 5,000, some even higher than that. And in the last 5 to 8 years, they've really come down. What Daniel and Eric are saying is true. And it's never been easier because you can buy a case now and try it. I think one of the things that we need to have the people understand, you bring in something that's new that you've never used before, you've done your research, you always test. You always want to make sure you're testing it, and it's going to be something that works for you. 5 to 8 years ago, if you had to buy $2,000 worth of this product, you could get hammered with getting caught with inventory. Now it's not the case. If you get hit with a case, it's not a big deal as though getting hammered with $2,500 worth of product. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think a lot of it's just based on product selection too. The more liquid products you choose, the better selling products you choose, the less risk there actually is that you're going to have money hung up. But yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Do you guys hear an echo when I'm talking?
No, it doesn't sound too bad. I mean, you're dropping some. It's choppy a bit, but I'm not getting anything echo at all.
Yes, someone was saying there was an echo. I want to make sure that there was not that problem. All right, my background person here is saying they probably need to turn down their volume a little.
Done.
I'm going to turn mine down a little so I can get that. Do I sound any better? I turned my volume down a little bit too. You guys still hear me all right?
Yeah, we've got you.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing is, and this is a big question, is a lot of people think that it's difficult to open up wholesale accounts, and they're afraid of the stigma out there that they're going to get the questions from the manufacturer that, are you selling on Amazon? How do you guys, I know that I personally take that as a challenge and can overcome it. How do you guys overcome the challenge of the manufacturers and vendors now that are getting more and more knowledgeable about their products being out there and the price getting lowered? How do you guys go about answering that, overcoming that objective?
I mean, I personally appreciate that objective because it means that the majority of people who come to this, come to this manufacturer are going to get turned away and not be able to buy the product. So I prefer my vendors to tell me no, they don't want to sell to me. But as far as working through that, I mean, it's all about helping to build an understanding that you represent more than an order. Like we're trying to, our goal is to try to show them that we can help their business in one way or another. We can help grow their sales. We can help grow their brand awareness, or we're going to help with some other aspect. Like, the most common thing you're going to see is, let's say you're looking at a product that sells pretty well, but it has a terrible listing, and you're able to point out what those things are. They're going to be much more likely to sell to you because they understand that you brought information to the table that will help them grow their business. So a lot of what we're trying to do is show them that we can be a great brand partner as opposed to just somebody who takes orders and buys product from them.
I agree with that. The other question is, a lot of people are saying that they just can't find products wholesale that are profitable to sell on Amazon. Now, both you and I know that that's just not the right answer, and that you can find them. And you guys have a unique process about doing it. Do you guys care to share a little bit of what you do?
Yeah, I mean, Dan's going to go more into that, but what I wanted to do is actually make sure that I highlight something that Dan touched on, but somebody may have not put together, is that, you know, we do, at this point, we enjoy getting told no, because it's more difficult for the next person coming along to get, you know, the more difficult it is for me to get the product means it's going to be more difficult for everybody. And a lot of people get discouraged. I mean, we've been discouraged when we started out hearing no, don't want any more Amazon sellers, but we've learned how to take and spin it to the point and bring value to the table, you know, and now turn those no's into yeses. And I know that there's going to be, you know, a larger barrier to entry for everybody else, because they're not going to want to sell, you know, to other people that are just trying to submit an order. So that's really a big key for it. But
what was the now? What was the question?
What? But I mean, I'm not sure what. You know, I wanted to kind of highlight that. I'm not sure. What was the question against John? Why are you asking me?
The question is, a lot of people think that buying wholesale is not profitable, and you guys obviously mastering it. So if you would want to share a little bit what you and how you're able to find profitable product where you guys have built this massive business. I think a lot of people think that wholesale, you just can't make money on it. And that's not necessarily true.
Right. I mean, there's obviously lots of money to be made with wholesale products. One of the things that we do is we're not out just looking through catalogs of products and hoping to find winners. We focus on finding a product that fits our sales goals. You know, the level of liquidity and the amount of units that we're going to sell or want to sell, and then we're able to trace those products back to the manufacturer. So that's, you know, for one thing, it helps us get kind of better pricing than working through distributors. And you know, you have to fight through the no's, like Eric said. It's part of it. But once we're able to establish those relationships with the manufacturers, then it becomes there's definitely another level of the game. It's you've got to learn to negotiate with manufacturers and get better pricing. Like, you have to learn how to be able to deal with strategies to reduce shipping costs. I mean, there's just tons of things. But whenever you're able to look at it from that perspective, you're able to, you know, you're adding 5% or 10% on units that you're selling hundreds or even thousands of can be huge amounts of money. So like that's, you know, it's all about focusing on trying to develop edges. Like it's you know, edges with negotiation. Like I want to get the best possible price. Edges in shipping. I want to be able to get my products inbound to me and inbound to Amazon at the cheapest possible price. So, and that's what wholesale lends itself to, because it's a more volume game. So, you know, being able to purchase more product is generally easier if you're purchasing the right product. Being able to ship bigger shipments that they get discounts is easier whenever you're shipping more product. And then that's kind of how it lends itself. I mean, it's a volume game that makes itself better with volume.
Guys, before we go to some questions here, we want to leave it to open this up to some questions in a minute here. Is there anything else you guys want to add that you feel is important for someone deciding to go into this process, and what they need to do and what they kind of should stay away from?
I think the most important, you know, to be honest with you, the most important part is just getting started. Most people get hung up at the door, and it's such an intimidating process to them that they spend all this time worrying about all the things that can go wrong, but never experience, you know, they never put themselves out there to do it. So my bit of advice is, we waited too long to do it. I wish we would have gotten started earlier in this process, because you're going to learn things that you can apply and get better at and more efficient at. And the more efficient and better you get at this, the more it lends itself to growth because it's more systemized and it's less based on talent. You know, you're able to remove yourself from the equation and create systems. So, you know, my advice is get started now. Like, start finding, you know, put yourself out there, start looking for products, and see if you can, you know, move your business forward.
We're going to open this up to some questions now. Paula has a question. She says, what if we already there and selling on Amazon? How do we launch into selling wholesale products? I think you kind of answered that a little bit. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that.
I mean, it's not there. Wholesale, I guess that's a misconception. Is wholesale products are not any different than RA products, or not any different than liquidation or private label products. Like, it's just, that's a means to get product. It's just a sourcing measure. So you don't have to change anything about what you do. You just start contacting manufacturers. You start contacting vendors who can sell you wholesale product. Make sure you have, all of them will require a tax certificate to set up, if that's possible. If you're in one of the tax-free states, they don't require it, but you're going to have some level of proof to show that you're a business. Outside of that, it's easy. All you have to do is start reaching out to people and trying to move forward. It's a sourcing measure, not a different kind of business. Like, it's not a different kind of product.
Guys, you want to make sure that you hang on to the end of this webinar too, because Dan and Eric have something for you. I want to make sure that you guys get that offer that they're offering. We have another question of, what is your process to evaluate a wholesale purchase? I think you kind of went over that a little bit too, but it just came up, so I want to make sure that if there's something that maybe wasn't answered, that you might have something that you can add to it.
Sure. For us, what we generally look for in a product, because whenever we're looking at a product, we don't necessarily know the cost. Like, because we source first on Amazon. We source because that's where we're selling our products. Like, we want to be buying products that people want. So we find products that sell, say, 90. We like products that sell 90 times a month or more, or that we can sell 90 times a month or more. And then if it fits that criteria, and there's enough competition is a function of the overall sales. And in our free video series, that we actually go over this really well, but it's effectively, if a product sells 500 times on Amazon in a given month, and I'm one of those 5 sellers that are selling that, or there are 5 sellers selling it, and I'm one of those sellers, I can generally expect to sell about 100 units. So that's what we're looking for. It's not necessarily, I'm not looking to only be a single seller on a product. I just need to be convinced that the product will still sell a lot. Like, even with sharing the buy box or whatever, we don't generally try to focus on a lot of exclusives. Particularly, I would never contact a vendor the first time I contact them and ask them for an exclusive. It's just not good form, and it's not going to work out very well for you most of the time. So what we try to do is we try to set up the relationships based on the products that we know we can sell a lot of, and then we reach out and see if the pricing works.
Another question from you. I can't pronounce this person's name. Michael says, what are the criteria for product selection in terms of BSR or average sales of a product monthly?
I mean, that's what Dan touched on there, that we want to, ideally, we want to target a product that we can sell 90 times a month. And you can use, I know there's tools out there that evaluate. I think we use Jungle Scout, but so it's not really necessarily a bestseller rank. But based off of that rank, it will tell you how many sales you can expect that particular SKU, that particular ASIN to sell in a month. And then so you divide that number by the number of competitive sellers. And, if we're able to, if adding us in there allows us to sell 90 or more a month, that's a product we're generally interested in. So,
if you don't know about the Jungle Scout, you can actually use the free version. It's junglescout.com/estimator, and you just type in the sales rank you want, and it'll tell you how many times that product sells approximately per month. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, that's the next question I was going to go into, guys, is what tools do you guys use besides Jungle Scout that help you to evaluate and help you make decisions?
We use Jungle Scout on the sourcing end, as well as to tell us to help us create a barometer for how much we're ordering. We use Restock Pro to help us with our replenishment cycles. We use Inventory Lab, mostly at this point, to track our cost of goods, because our orders are, a lot of one product. So it's not as hard to type it in through Seller Central, but it has a really good cost of goods tracking software. We use Price Checker, Price Checker 2 to evaluate lists more quickly, and App Eagle. And then Eric uses QuickBooks. I actually have never opened it. So what?
Okay. We have another question is, what is your average profit margin? How much profit per product is good profit? If you guys want to share that.
I mean, we target products that our initial target range is 30% plus ROI. So if it's 30%, that's a product we're going to pursue and try to over time increase our margins. We obviously don't discriminate on the high end either. So if it's 100, if it has 100% ROI, I'm still willing to carry it.
Thanks, guys. That's a great, 100% ROI. We all want to carry that. Joanna has another question. Says, what can I use instead of a federal tax ID and other documents needed? I'm not sure that they can use anything else besides that. I think Amazon requires it, don't they?
Amazon just requires you can do a social security number instead of a federal tax ID. But if you're going to get into this trying to be a business, I strongly advise getting an FEIN, and they're free. You go irs.gov and you can get one free.
I think it's coming from someone that's international. That's why they're at.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there is. I don't know what they require for you to set up an Amazon account. But what wholesale companies are looking for from the international folks is basically proof they're a business. Let's say you need to set it up from the Amazon side. However, I've never set up an international account. I know that they require for us to set up in the UK. They required us to set up VAT and things like that. But we have several international folks in our group that have done this, went through the process, not a problem. But from the vendor side, it's actually much easier. They're looking for proof that you're a business, and if you can show them that you're a business, generally you can start buying product.
So from the international side, you're saying you don't need a federal, you don't need a tax ID to be able to sell.
I would say contact a U.S. CPA and set it up. I have no idea what you need. But if it's something you want to do, it's a barrier to entry that's possible. It's not hard. We have several international sellers that do it, so it's not something that's impossible. But I would suggest talking to an American CPA.
Yeah, that's what I would suggest too. Is whenever you have a question like that, go to your CPA. They're going to have more knowledge about that. Another question here from Angela. She says, "Do you have a business website, and do wholesalers typically request that information?"
Yeah, we definitely have. We have several different types of business websites. We have a site that kind of explains a little bit about our business and tells who we are and what we do, and then we have a few retail sites as well. But yeah, we definitely do. We think that adds kind of to the professionalism of our company. It shows these vendors what we're about, what we're doing, and how we represent their brand. So I think that's a very important part of it. Yes.
Any more questions? Doesn't look like we have any more questions. I don't want to keep you guys any longer than we need to today. Guys, Dan and Eric, at the end of this, they will be posting a link here to their free series they did for you for you guys to be able to get. I would check out this series. These guys really do know what they're talking about. They build a tremendous business. I continue to follow them. I'm going to follow them. I really admire what they're doing up there and how they've done it and the business model they've done it with, because wholesale can be a challenging thing, but if it's done right and you do your homework and do it the right way, obviously Dan and Eric have done that, and they have built this tremendous business. And like always, I get one more question. It says, do you recommend a minimum retail price point? I don't know what $7 means. $7, I guess, is a retail price point?
I think price point honestly is
I think
a
that's
function
too low,
of your,
but I'm not sure what you.
I think it's a function of your business. It's like if you have a great amount of excess capacity, like let's say that you have lots of employees and you know they need more work to do, processing that $7 product is fine. But most people don't have that excess capacity, and you should focus on the highest return possible. So it's more just a function of putting it in line with, is that the highest return possible for your business? If yes, then you might want to take advantage of it. If not, if there are other opportunities for you, I would suggest looking at a higher return product or a higher price product. And to tell you guys a little bit about this video series, I think the video.
Are you gonna start? Is it this one right here? Let me put this up while you start talking about.
Oh.
So this is the link to the video series Dan's going to talk to you about.
Okay, so this video series, what it's going to be about, I think it's the cornerstone of wholesale. It gives you a really detailed view into how we source products, in terms of the concepts that we're utilizing. It also gives you a really detailed view into product selection. Now, I think product selection is the cornerstone of creating a growing business. You really want to, for us, it's been imperative that we have liquidity-based inventory because we came into this with less money. We wanted to have our products constantly moving, constantly turning. And in this series, we're going to go over how you can identify competition and how you can relate that competition to the amount of sales you're going to make on a product.
There we are.
All right, so guys, again, I'm going to go back to this. I want to thank you guys for being the first inaugural ProSeller Talk guest here. I feel honored and privileged to have you guys here. Like I said, I continue to follow you guys. You guys are the real deal. Anybody should never question Dan and Eric. What these guys do are for real. They've got real numbers. They're real people. They're from Kentucky, which anyone in Kentucky is real anyway. We know that. So, and the biggest thing I like about Dan and Eric is they're here to help you guys, and they 100%, without question, want to see you guys succeed. And that's who I surround myself with. If you're going to surround yourself with people and you want to surround yourself with successful people, then Dan and Eric are the real deal. These are the kind of people you want to surround yourself with. They'll take your business to the next level. And guys, thank you all for being here. As far as watching this, we know there's a lot of things that you can be watching here. There's a lot of things that you can be doing besides being here on a Thursday morning. It's tough to be here during work schedules. We know that. So we do appreciate you being here. Dan and Eric, I'm going to give you guys the last word because I really believe that you deserve that. You guys have just proven track record and are just awesome. And I admire you guys and will continue to follow you as long as you guys are doing what you're doing.
Hey, John, it was an absolute pleasure being here. And similarly, we admire everything you do. You put out a lot of great content, and you show a lot of people how to, how they can succeed, how they can have a real awesome business. So, it is an absolute pleasure to be out here and talk to you. Hopefully everybody found, value in what we were talking about. And I really do believe that if you check out the video series, it'll help drive some of those points at home because we are a little restricted on time here as far as being able to go really in depth. But the videos, we tried to be more in depth and really drive home the concepts to help you understand how to analyze products and how to get started with wholesale effectively.
One last quick question here because I do think it's important. It came late. Is if Amazon's a seller, will you still sell on that listing? I think that's a huge question. That's the only reason why I'm bringing it up.
In terms of, we don't, we actively avoid products that Amazon carries. We have carried products with them before, but that's more or less an accident, and it's very hard. That's the problem with Amazon is even if you can do it profitably, it's hard to understand how much of a product you can sell because they skew the buy box metrics so bad, and the buy box is where the majority of sales come from. So we do look for opportunities that Amazon doesn't carry, and there are plenty of them out there. There's no reason that you should subject yourself to to facing the world's best online retailer as competition.
No, ProSeller Talk is the link for that. Someone's asking for it. Don't put it in the chat. ProSeller Talk. Just ProSeller Talk. That's the link for the thing that they're giving away. All right. All right, guys. Thanks again. It's a pleasure. I know you guys got a busy day ahead of you today. It's always good talking to you guys. Hopefully, I'll catch up with you guys out in Vegas shortly. I'm hoping to go there maybe next year again once I recover from this heart attack thing that slowed me down a little bit. So, again, guys, it's been a pleasure. You guys take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. You too.
What was the link? Was it just the Facebook link? The ProSeller Talk Facebook link?
I'll show you.
You're good.